Greg, you're all set?
I'm all set.
All right. Approval of the minutes of September 17th, September 24th, and September 30th. I'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes.
What did I say?
Yeah, the 17th, the 24th, and the 30th.
Okay. I'll second that.
Okay,
Chad?
Chad. Has everybody had a chance to read through them?
Yeah.
Pretty much. Anybody see any? Then hearing no discussion, by unanimous consent, I'll move that the minutes of September 17th, September 24th, and 30th be approved. You don't have to second it. We've already seconded the motion, so we just dispatched it. Additions and deletions. Do you have anyone have any additions and deletions to the agenda?
There is a letter here from Rescue Inc. I didn't copy it out, but it is a proposed contract for next year. We can just put that in correspondence.
Under correspondence?
Yeah, I think it may be something I'll wait and look at your budget workshop next week before you do, but it is here for acknowledgement.
And we've got the Brattleboro Community Television annual meeting coming up, so I'd like to add that under new business.
Ancient roads should be on old business, probably.
Ancient roads? Okay.
I didn't have that on there. Okay.
You said new business, Brattleboro,
Brattleboro Community Television, BCTV, is this thing in front of me. This flyer. Joe, Kim, do y'all have anything that
Additions and deletions?
for additions and deletions? Great, fantastic.
You want to wait for Ken on those, or?
Yeah, why don't we do that? Because we can take care of these at the end of the meeting.
Go to the highway.
So, right, let's go right into the highway foreman commissioner's report.
Okay, I'll go through my list. I did get in touch with Kim. She did give me a printout of next year's budget, or this year's, so we can try to work on the budget. I'll have my some input for next Tuesday. I have a lot of questions. Kim and I were talking about it today. So
Yes.
I'll need some input from you gentlemen, and the one lady that's missing. Called Mark Pickering about the bridge inspections and stuff like that, and they were done last year. When Bruce bills, he got the reports. They should be, I don't have them on file. I'll call Bruce and see where they are. And we do that one bridge we were talking about, the deck on it. I do have that report on my computer. He did email me today that report on bridge number 42. And it does have a bad, it was built in 1939, you know, the deck, it's too narrow, it's just an old bridge.
Right.
And the deck it's compromised, but it's still within the minimum satisfaction of the state, you know what I mean? But
Okay.
it does need work.
So it's something that we need to start looking at and budgeting for the next 5-6 years.
What
Exactly.
bridge is that?
It's the one below, you have the bridge by Shadow Lawn, in between Shadow Lawn and Barber Road. Well, this is the next one down towards,
What in the
Oh,
yeah.
This
Yeah,
side
yeah,
of
it's
Tall
all-
Tales?
Yeah, this side. Yeah.
Where you head up there?
Yes. Flagger training course, we talked about that this past Thursday. I got in touch with Wade Shore, we played phone tag Thursday, and got to hold each other Friday afternoon. He can set up a flagging course at the town garage, November 29th. And if we have 5 or 6 people, he says we won't invite anybody else, because that's an ideal size class.
Okay. All right.
6 people or so.
So
November 29th?
Yes.
I know of one individual who we can. It's going to be a Thursday. What I'm trying to do is get a couple of people who may be retired they would be looking to
Right.
help the town out with some flagging.
And my card is over this summer, this past summer, so I'm up on my time.
Okay.
And the other two guys, their cards are gonna be up next spring.
Next spring, so we might as well go ahead
So
and
we get another 3 years.
drag everybody through it.
Right.
All right.
Have they gone to 3?
Okay, so then
Do you need yours too?
if anybody knows of somebody who would be interested in taking it,
I've
then
done
How long, how,
Had the bowl of
most of the day,
And that was in the spring.
Uh,
Yeah.
I've taken on it, but it was.
the course that I
How long
took,
is it? He's just wondering how long.
It's about a 4-hour course. It's really easy. They walk you through
Yeah, I've done it,
for the fire department.
no, when I worked for the state, but it was many moons ago.
Vermont.
Actually, it was just when they started making you take courses.
Call Vermont Local Roads. They have a winter maintenance policy. They have several of them.
great.
And they're gonna email those to me. Hopefully this week. I got in touch with them last Friday. They haven't yet though. So they have 3 different ones for different sized towns, different applications, blah, blah, blah.
If
Hopefully
we can get copies of them, then we can
mix and match.
mix and match.
Sure. I did get information for Mr. Schoonover, the beaver guy, and I left it on my desk. I can give it to you Thursday.
I'm gonna be stopping in there tomorrow to pick up some of that wire,
Okay.
so I'll pick that up.
I called Wyndham Solid Waste about their hazardous material pickup November 3rd. See if they have any flyers or anything we can put out in town, rubbish truck
Usually
now.
do give us some.
Yeah, sometimes they'll drop them off
Oh,
and nobody's there. They put them on our thing and they don't get
distributed.
applied properly.
They generally put a sign out front here.
The sandwich board thing.
Yep.
All right, and on that, there should be a compliance,
I
an
talked to them.
accident safety and compliance.
They take care of that. That's all on them, they said.
That's all on them?
Mhm.
All right, we're gonna want a copy of that, because we're gonna wanna have a copy of that on the file. Just to make sure that even if it's all on them, that,
Just give me half a minute here, Larry hasn't seen this. This is what came through. They're subcontracting to these people out of Framingham to do the pickup, transport contractor. Anyway, the select board has to sign this, but the retired captain, that we're supposed to sign back. I thank her. Up to date, contingency plan, a site map, which I can get a piece of it, or a purple from the land. So that's not a problem, but they apparently are requiring that. If they got that, because we don't seem to have one, at least not on a piece of paper formally, unless it's in permit renewal. But that's what it's called, safety accident kitchen, and it just means for hazardous waste spill or something that we need to do. What they do. And if you can let me know if that comes in, or if they're gonna send that, that'll keep me from looking more for it, because I can't find it. So I'll think we have it.
I'll send that to you another copy. I'll do that tomorrow. T8, they found the parts for the rear end. They found 6 of them. So they're gonna order all 6, because that's all they can find, and they'll have 4 on hand, in case anything ever happens.
What is it?
T8, you know the rear end always rocked a little bit in that truck? Well, the saddles, we've never had a rear end of parts, there's no reason to retort the usual. The rear end was loose on the saddles. And by doing that, in all these years, it wore the saddles. And they've had a hell of a time finding the saddles for the truck. They stopped making those trucks 3 years ago. And we've done a lot of products for them.
So we got the last 6.
Pardon me?
We got the last 6.
Yeah. But anyways,
Well, we're not getting all 6.
now we're only getting 2, that's all we need. That's what T9 is going back tomorrow for warranty on the fuel tank. Fuel tank leaks on it around the filler tank. said they fixed it last week. Can't put more than half tank in there. It just splashes all over the truck. So we can't have that. That does have to go back. I looked at the bridge on Simpson Brook, the guardrails, and there are bolts sticking out there. Just have to
Get something on it.
put some heat in the nuts, get the nuts off, chase the nuts, or chase the bolts with the new nuts. And we'll get something on there.
And then,
I do have information on the one. I told the guys, I told you to, I don't know if I told you, but you can piggyback on the state bid and see what it depends on. And I got the prices from Tenco and Fairfield, those are the names out there right now. And
That's a Ford,
that's a Ford.
probably 50.
One's 60 days out, one's 6 to 8 weeks out. If you order it, to get the body done, install it. Nobody's doing better, they're all tied up
What
already.
are we doing with the old one? We selling that ourselves, or are we taking?
It's up to you guys.
Depends on where you can get the most
We
money.
can sell it ourselves probably, or do you think?
what do you usually do? Do you usually put it out to bid or?
We should put it out.
We have to put it in.
Yeah, we have to put it out to bid. Is that something we should do now? Start the process of putting it out to bid, or wait? I guess it wouldn't matter.
It doesn't matter.
The truck could just sit there.
But the whole thing is we have to get this loan act
Yeah.
into the state.
Approved.
It's when we do let the old truck go, take Townsend out the door. That's
Yes.
fine.
So we might as well wait till we get our.
Yeah, we
approval
might as
and
well,
then
yeah, we might as well wait until we even have a delivery date, or the new truck is in the shop and start the process of selling the old one.
I'd have,
You never know.
I'd have the new truck.
You can buy it.
Yeah.
I'd have
The
it in-
sander.
I'd have it in hand before
A
they.
package deal with sander and everything on that truck, I think, should get rid of that old sander and everything.
The new truck is gonna be basic dump body with a tailgate sander.
Yeah, get rid of the driveway sander and on the truck with the plow and hold everything go.
Well, as long as he has the information, we can fill out the application, at least get it in, and,
I
you
think,
know,
yeah.
then we can decide. I mean, we're really
Right, we
only
don't, I
looking.
mean, this isn't set in stone, right, or it is?
Not
No,
if you fill it, you know.
We just need to get it in, right?
You get the
Yeah, we
application
just need
in,
to
they
get
approve
it.
the application. If you buy
Yeah.
the truck, they send you the money. If you don't buy the truck,
If
you
they,
just.
yeah, if they approve the application, we don't have to act on
Right.
it, we don't have to take it.
I mean,
You know,
and we're
they do
really
se- They do
only,
70% or something like that.
what do you, well, they'll go up to 110,000 on
Right, but it's
something,
only
or
70 it's
75% of the purchase
75.
price. But we're only looking to borrow 20 or 25,
What did you call it?
not very much this time. I mean, would you come up with, 80, 85?
36,000 for the equipment.
Were they both relatively similar?
Yeah. One was 36, one was 38. It's 41 and change. 41,250 for the truck.
That's a rolling chassis.
That's the rolling chassis. That's PTO ready, live PTO on it. For live hydraulic. Just a basic truck.
So we're talking
just under
80,
80,000.
just under 80. So we're really only looking at borrowing 20,000, which is nothing, you know, I mean, a minimal amount. I mean, if it came down to it, we have some money in the equipment fund if we don't want to borrow, but it's just, it's so cheap.
Yeah.
And,
All the interest rate.
yeah,
I think we probably would want
You put into the equipment
Hang on
for the
to
full
that.
amount, and then you can
any
moderate that.
breakage
We can
or
moderate that, and as we get out of the winter,
winter.
then we can determine how much surplus we have.
Just
And
have some cash on hand for breakage and,
I have a question.
So you want me to put in for more than what we need?
You tell them how much it's gonna be at 80,000 or something like that, and they will approve the 69 or something.
Oh, well, no, we put in how much we want. I mean, I would only put in for the 20 that we've got 60 that we appropriated at town meeting, and 20,000 to make up for the 80.
if we put in for 70,000, no, if we put in for 30,000,
Yeah,
hold on for 30,000, we've got 10 grand that we don't necessarily have to cover. I mean, what's the interest going to be off of 10 grand?
yeah, not much. I mean, we're only paying 2%.
We're only paying 2%.
It's minimal, but, okay.
All right, so then that way, if we need 10 grand worth of parts or
Extras.
extras or sand, or
It'll be in our equipment account or whatever.
it would be in our equipment
that means
account.
that's
And if
a
we
good
get
idea.
into June and we're sitting good and we've got the excess, then we can,
Just get it, yeah, just.
Well, or we could apply it to
Yeah.
some other, the loans. I mean, we're done paying this year, finally on the one that we're trading in. So never again on the, I mean, I would only ask for a 3-year loan on this because of the amount. I mean, and we're, in our equipment schedule, we've got it in as a 3-year turnaround, so we don't want to borrow for longer than what we would be keeping the vehicle. And,
Plus we'll have all that money back from
well, right, and plus we will get something for the sale of the other one. I mean, when Kurt and I originally set up that equipment replacement schedule, we put in a 0 residual value on T7 because I think, we're not really sure that it's going to be much. But again, that could be money we could put into that, back into that equipment fund to have for unexpected or whatever. So we, I think it's this year we pay up, that one's paid off. Next year that tobacco thing is gone, and so we sort of have a rolling number of loans for these different pieces of equipment that we have.
right,
It's-
that's what
Do you want to wait till next meeting before getting the ball rolling on the body? Will take the longest time. The trucks are
I think we should wait till,
Huh?
I think we should wait till we get the approval of the loan.
waiting for the approval on the loan.
They're pretty quick.
Quick, yeah, the October
2 weeks.
15th is the fall meeting, and we hear right after that.
2 weeks at the outside, you'll hear by November.
We're
I mean,
looking
I'm
at,
sure there's not going to be a problem. Right? I mean, it depends
Not
on,
for that amount.
between
well, but it
6 and 8
depends on
weeks.
how many other towns are trying to borrow money and.
Right, but we're also looking at between 6 and 8 weeks for, once we give them tell them that we're gonna buy the body,
They have to get the body and whatnot.
they've gotta get it, the body. and
We
the
have
parts.
6 weeks would be mid-December,
But it always goes.
figure January.
We asked for a loan for 20,000 or 30,000. But they talking about.
Yeah, let's bring the kid up to speed on that.
Apologize for being, I didn't realize Hetty wasn't gonna be here tonight.
That's okay, we got it under control.
Well,
Alright, we're talking about the replacement 554 to replace the 1-ton T7. And Kurt found, using the state bid, he found a chassis that's available for $41,250. It's just a regular dump body, it's PTO ready. And the two manufacturers of the dump bodies, one of them is at $36,000 and one of them is at $38,000. And you're
That was
suggested to go with the $36,000 because that includes just the dump body, a sander, and a plow.
And hydraulics and the lights.
And the plow that you like is,
So this is what we're looking at.
We have 60.
We had 60%.
And what we're suggesting to do is to get a, application in for a loan for $30,000. We have 60, just because the interest rate is so low at this point. If we get into a bind, we've got a little bit of cushion. If we don't get into a bind, then we can roll that money right back into and buy down that loan.
My only question when you say that is, I think that 60 was specifically earmarked for truck. Am I
Yes.
correct? So you can't just kind of use it as a cushion. I mean, it was meant for the truck.
It's meant for the truck, yes.
But you don't have to use all 30 of the loan. Sure.
We would have to,
You have to, right, because
So if that's the case, just get 20.
but I'm just in case we get into the end of the year and we need, for some reason, somebody drives it into a tree,
Yeah,
then that way we've got a little bit of a cushion to get.
but you can't have that for a cushion because if it's specifically earmarked for the purchase of a new truck, that's what it's to be used for. You can't take part of that 60 or that 60 and put it here for a cushion. I mean, when it was voted at town meeting, it was voted to use for the purchase of a new truck. And it's,
So we-
my understanding, I don't
we
think
gotta
that
zero
legally
that
that
out.
you can do that.
We gonna zero that.
Excuse me?
Oh, hold on one second, anybody have a
Because it-
report?
Because I think that if it's specific, you can't.
But I mean, I understand what you're saying,
Got old staff.
but we can borrow, if we apply for a $30,000 loan, we only, say we have to borrow 21.9 or 21.8. We only borrow the money that we need. So I think that's the way the thing is.
Well, no, what usually happens is if we put this application in and it's approved, you'll find the $30,000 in the checking account and say, oh, we,
I thought it was what you needed.
yeah, well, I mean, you can always send it back, you don't have to, keep it for sure, but.
And experience has shown that when we do get a new truck, there are always incidental expenses that come in after that amount to like 2 or 3%, painting, name on the side.
It's,
Whatever.
the article was actually written to raise 60,000 by taxation to be placed in the highway equipment fund toward the purchases of vehicles and equipment.
And I don't want to use it for anything other than,
Vehicles and equipment.
well, I don't want to use it for anything other than this new truck. But I want to make sure that we're not having to, if we run into an incidental.
I understand that, I just, in hearing what the article says, I'm okay with borrowing what you need, because I'm an advocate of borrowing money. At those low interest rates.
And at the low interest rates right now,
Keeping.
I understand that. I just think that you have to be awful careful where you set this. If you've got 60,000 and you're gonna borrow 30, that's gonna give you another 30 that you're gonna cushion, and you gotta be awful careful where you put it and what you spend it on. It's not just money to, I'm talking legally, I mean, by statute, by state statute, you can't just, put an article through and then use it anywhere else, you know that.
Yeah.
So that's what
and
I'm
that's,
saying.
Well, yeah, well, that,
we're just looking for any incidental around
Yeah.
this vehicle.
pretty much we didn't want to zero them out with the, I was thinking, saying that the interest rate
Well,
being
and
so
I mean,
low.
that's what I said, even anytime that we've gone to purchase trucks, that it's cheaper to borrow money than it is to tax money.
Because even if it comes to it and we just leave it there for the next future purchase of a vehicle.
I don't know about that, but I think, yeah, I'm okay with that.
Well, I mean, again, if we don't use, we can always
off
pay
the loan.
down,
Yeah.
turn it back over and pay it down.
Okay, did you have anything else?
Doing culvert inventory, we talked about, remember we talked about roads in signs, well, one of the regional stuff, my sign inventory, you're putting it on. Because on our budget, we're gonna have to start replacing a section of town, of the signs that don't meet standards. And I break the town up into 3 different sections. which are 3 different, the way we plow snow, do you know what I mean? Because I know all the roads for each route. And so in our budget, we're really gonna have to take one plow route, you know what I mean? And start appropriating money for next year, or sign replacement. And about as far as doing a road, I want to get all the culvert inventory done first. Because it's, you know, some are worse than others, in different spots, of towns and acres are worse than others because of the progression of building and whatnot. So before I do anything for that, for the budget, I'd like to at least get it done.
Over inventory, yeah.
Yeah. So, we only got about 390 more to do.
Well, that's pretty good. You got about half of them, a little over half.
It's over half done.
Yeah.
It's a lot of getting in and out.
It's a lot of getting in there.
Yeah, that's about all I have.
That's about it. I did pick up a water test kit for the garage, to get the bacterial and odor test. It's gonna cost us about $80, but
I think the odors come from water
in the water heater,
heater.
we were pulling it right out of the cold water.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the filter,
Yeah.
I brought the filter in. After about 3 weeks, it's fairly,
Let's get some iron.
it's got a little bit of iron in it, and it's got a little bit of gravel in it. Where's the gravel? Yeah, you can see the gravel here.
Who drilled that?
Um,
And they,
So Gary Line is going to be coming up. I called him last week. He's going to be coming up this week to look at the well. And we'll determine. I'm not going to. I did find that for under $10 each, I can get a case of filters from a supplier in Keene. The ones that are similar to this one are like $35 each. But I want to determine what's going to happen with the well, and specifically with the pump, because out of the bottom of the filter cartridge, we were pulling, looked like beach sand.
Yeah, that's normal.
So I wanted to,
3 weeks.
Yeah, it's
The
dirty
pump
well.
may, the pump may need to be
You
raised.
can put you need to raise the pump or put a sand filter on the pump.
right, but
Then
then,
both. I mean,
Yeah.
you could have raised the pump first.
Yeah, pull the pump up 5, 10
and you
feet.
said you had plenty of water too, right?
20, over 20.
so based off of that, it'll help us determine what size of filter we need to get. But also by getting the water tested, then I can, tomorrow morning I'll stop by the garage and we'll get a sample so that I can run this to Keene and have them look at the water testing.
It's probably a little iron bacteria and stuff, but the majority of the odor is coming from the water heater, from the water heater, putting out that sulfur smell.
Oh, that magnesium? Yeah, okay.
I don't know how old that water heater is now. How old is it?
Not quite 3 years old.
No,
Yeah, it's not old enough to.
you won't take it out yet. You can replace it.
Yeah, but if 3 years old shouldn't be.
Yeah, some water will eat that, that'll tear right into that, so we can, if it was older, I'd just take it out and throw it out. Don't have one in it, but 3 years, or you got a 6-year warranty on it, I think, you don't wanna do that. But that's a normal thing for a water heater, for hard water to pack the water heater and give that sulfur smell. And
We're pulling out cold water.
you
Cold water, back let it run there, you know. And
yeah, well, that thing you can do for that is put air in its valve before the pressure tank. You have to change the pressure tank. A good place to check the water is right at the toilet tank. They'll tell you what you had. Because it sits there and it's exposed to the air. So.
But we'll let everybody know what we hear from Mr. Lynn and what we hear from your water sample. So. Okay, does anybody have anything for Kurt?
Ready to get out snow?
We could plow snow for Halloween. If we really wanted to.
No, we had snow last year.
First October?
We did it for chains, that would get us through the year.
Well, depends how much.
So, no, I don't know when.
Yeah. It'll be pretty close to normal. Maybe it's the ice that kills us.
No, I just saw it, we just, there it was.
No, they're having a special, so okay. Yeah, starting at the end of the month, plows are ready to go right now, but we're gonna I'll go through my inventory for plow parts and stuff. Nobody's sent out their winter specials yet, the nose pieces and the shoes and stuff like that. We haven't set it pretty soon, so. Yeah,
You're okay with that?
I'm okay with that.
Yeah, okay. It's not much different.
No.
Yeah, it's
The first plan was 6 there, because they had something, they already had it. Okay.
Thank you.
Law enforcement constable's report. Mr. Cook, how you doing?
Alright, can't complain. It's almost winter. Getting cold. Not a whole lot to report on from my aspect. Besides the fact did some rough numbers, and traffic's definitely up in town. Roughly, we've stopped twice as many cars, if not more than twice as many, this month or September as we did in August. So traffic's definitely increasing. So.
Is that traffic stop primarily speed, or is it?
Well, I did the rough numbers. Roughly, most of them are speed, yes. We have about 72 stops in August, 54 of which resulted in tickets. I didn't run the numbers exactly what were. September was 20. We had 143 stops, 121 tickets. So.
Is there any high concentration area?
West Townsend area.
Still
It's
a money maker?
it never fails. Route 35's picking up. I've been sitting out here a bunch of days. Once I'm out here, though, if I'm out here for very long, word gets out.
I know last time we mentioned down as you're trying to go up into Townsend Acres and that area.
I've been up in that area. I've been up in that area. I've been up in the Plum Road area itself. Numerous times. I usually see one car when I'm up in there. I mean, I don't want to spend hours upon hours up in there. Was it Saturday night? I spent a half an hour just roaming the roads up in there, and I didn't see any cars. So, I mean, to have.
I think Steve's concern was actually where
Traffic
Plum Road
On
comes on to
Okay.
Route 30, because people coming around the corner by
well,
Glass
daughter.
Place,
Yeah, his daughter into
you know,
Harmonyville.
or either direction.
Okay.
I think, we thought people were going a little faster by that intersection than,
I guess I
going
misunderstood that.
into-
I thought you guys meant Plum Road itself.
yeah,
Okay.
I think, or leaving Harmonyville going, okay, now I can step on it, and
Right.
coming out. And,
Yeah, I know
I mean, that
I've
is a
sat-
corner, and
Yeah.
I think it is sometimes a little bit difficult,
I've
pulling
been
out,
sitting in
going
the
south.
Harmonyville area.
Yeah,
The
that probably
difficulty
helps.
is locations to sit.
Yeah,
I mean, obviously, narrow shoulders. I can't really sit on a shoulder when there's not much there.
yeah, I don't know where you would sit there, to
So
be honest with you.
it
but-
does get kind of difficult in that aspect, but I'm sure I can find some areas to slide into.
I could show you a spot that you can back your car right up on the lawn. Good view of that corner.
Is there numbers, or just some idea, is it local people or non-residents that seem to increase?
Mixture.
And the reason I ask is because if there's been a dramatic increase from one month into the next, if it tends to be the same people, or the people that live in this area, we should have them pretty well trained by now.
Right,
We should
yeah.
know West Townsend that you're gonna be sitting there. But if it's not, if it's, you know, out of staters, I hesitate to use that phrase, but,
Right.
you know, it's people from out of the area, then maybe we need to look at doing some different signage or doing some traffic calming in that area. That's, you know.
Right,
That's
I think.
so the numbers will tell us kind of,
I can try to run some of those numbers, I can talk to somebody that can.
be interested to see.
Absolutely.
I mean, if it's,
I know, I stopped the gamut of Vermont,
Yeah.
Connecticut, New York, everything.
Yeah.
You know, it's not specifically just out-of-staters, it's in-staters.
Yeah.
You know, I personally don't really pay attention to locate, like, where they're exactly
Mhm.
coming from. So, you know, the fact of, you know, whether they're from Townsend or from Jamaica or from Manchester or
if
wherever.
we live in the valley, yeah, I know you're there.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, the fact is, you know, obviously we don't spend all of our time out there,
No.
but, you know, it's always been and always probably will be. I think signage, I think there's plenty of signage. Personally, it's clearly posted. You have the speed limit ahead signs. You know, as you're coming out of the 50 zone, there's plenty of signage going into the 30 zone in both directions. So the fact that people don't see them doesn't help when you're doing 65 plus past them. So that alone, you know, is probably the reason why a lot of the signs aren't seen. So, but other than that, I mean, we discussed the dog situation yesterday. I think hopefully we've worked that out, or are in the process of working that out. So, other than that.
Okay.
Thank you.
Good.
And I will mention to the sheriff about the next meeting. I'm not sure, I think he had other stuff going on, so he just came back, so
Okay.
he's got a lot on his plate now he's
Yeah.
back, so, but I will mention to him, see if he can make it for the next meeting for you. Thank you.
Health officer.
Greg, you might want to just make a note that the sheriff is going to be here next meeting for us to be prepared to do the contract talks.
Yeah, it would be on that, it would be on a grant that's expiring, which we aren't really part of. That was something that came to them, but
But that's
we'll
what
get a
we
heads up on
wanted to
that.
discuss,
Right.
if it's on the agenda at least.
Yep, okay.
It would help me remember, rather than have them come in and say, what are you doing?
Okay,
Okay, our site out in West Townsend. I've been contacted by Mark Roy via email asking for an update. I've tried to call him back twice, haven't gotten an answer, so I will compose an email telling him all of the steps we have taken. I was able to attend health officer training a couple of weeks ago, and the director of environmental health was actually teaching the class. And so I was able to ask if we had any other recourse. And she said we can actually file a health order in addition to what the state is doing. That'll then give the town legal recourse to pursue the issue if it's not getting taken care of in a timely manner. There is a procedure to do that. The first thing we do is file an intent to file a health order. And the homeowner would then have the ability to come in for a hearing and dispute the details in terms of moving forward with that. And I think I sent out a lot of the information that I did receive at the training. One of the things we covered was rental code. And the health officers actually have the ability to look at rental properties a little more closely than primary residences. So we may want to consider keeping a record of what our rental properties are. So if we do get a complaint, we know which way we need to approach it. Even if that's just a notation on the property card. I know.
I would think the listers would know that as part of the lister information, because I think that that portion of a property is assessed differently. It's under, a business
It's a
sort
commercial,
of,
it's a commercial listing.
yeah, kind of thing.
And the rules
So
are
they
different.
split up, like the same as somebody having an office in their house, it's, so the listers probably would be able to help you with that information. Maybe not all of them, but the majority, and of course, doing the reappraisal now, we'll probably know a little more.
Have we been able to get in touch with the health officer?
If that's directed to me, the answer is no. I
Okay.
have not yet. But I will, then I'll let you know.
And just to the board, there's some, the state has not received paperwork from the health officer.
No, he is still listed as primary health officer. Unfortunately, I can't get him to return my phone calls.
He was appointed, and the state did appoint him. He did get a certificate of appointment, or it was done by the state. The select board did it, and it was done by the
Yes.
state at appointment time.
And
And he was notified.
Right, and has he filed all the paperwork that he needs to?
That I don't know.
Okay.
That I do not know. And I haven't heard from him since March. And you
Yeah,
haven't.
that would be my only, if we've appointed somebody, but do they haven't taken any additional steps to, if there's any paperwork that needs to go in.
They just need to file a letter of resignation if they're no longer interested in the post. In the event that that doesn't happen and they step down, the chair of the select board then becomes the health officer.
Alright, so we just need to determine whether he's still interested.
So as far as the West Town property, has anyone been back to see?
I've driven past, it looks like the tractor has moved, it looks like he's having a pretty big yard sale. So he may be making some progress, but I haven't gone back to do an actual inspection and touch base with him.
So in the West Townsend property, that's the only issue that we have with health officer at this point in time?
I think that's the only real pending issue. The other issues
No, I'm just.
more or less resolve themselves.
Because that's been my experience, they usually do. And I
Yeah.
think a lot of times we have to be careful about making crises out of little things, I get concerned that sometimes we blow things out of proportion a little bit too quickly and too big when they resolve themselves or can be resolved pretty quickly. That's, so, as far as rental properties and doing inspections and all that kind of thing, I think you have to really curtail ourselves.
Well, that would be only on per complaint,
This is a complaint.
only a complaint. We're not gonna go knocking on doors.
Right, and it's just more of making sure that
Then we gotta see
our
what
health
the-
officer, deputy health officer know
Check out
when
what
they
the,
receive a complaint, how they can
Yeah.
determine if it's a rental
and
property.
look at the whole complaint. If, if this person just, the landlord gave them their eviction notice, then they start calling with complaints,
Exactly.
So, it's-
It also involves a lot of common sense. So,
The dry well grant, is that for you, or are you gonna talk about that at all?
Well, let's talk about it because
I wanna know, I'd like to know, some of these wells go dry, why is it the town responsible?
that's my
I would
feeling.
have to drill a well just like
My,
anybody else.
my feeling is,
It's actually in the health officer manual.
but we shouldn't, there's no way we can
What is
guarantee potable water though.
What is in the manual? As far as,
What it
gotta-
says, there's actually a section that is labeled drought conditions.
Mhm.
It says, in the event the wells in town start going dry, the select board can request a tanker to be brought here. The town is then responsible for filling water so those people are able to have drinking water. It's acceptable if the drinking water has to be boiled. But we would be responsible for filling that tanker truck.
how long? For
as long
how
as-
drought conditions
Until-
stop, or-
if we
Into the-
choose to do that, and
Right.
it's more of a drought condition, not somebody's well.
Well,
dry. I mean,
You would have to have several people in
Yeah.
town.
it's not just,
Well, I mean, I got a neighbor right now.
These are springs, I take it, right? Spring wells or,
Yeah.
And we do have quite a few of those in town.
right.
First, there's people in town, even on a good day, that don't have drinking water, and I just see the thing coming that we're gonna say that we have potable water at the town barn, and next thing you know, they're gonna be in there filling water containers up. That's the process.
and that's not our
And
responsibility.
that's,
No, not if they're having an individual well issue and this isn't
well, yeah,
due to a weather-related condition,
and the community,
then it really is their own
the
responsibility.
community does take care of its own very, I mean, that does work very well. I see it happening right now and stuff. And we should be the last, final, last resort.
That's what we're pointing out, is that we need to have a plan
But it
as
should,
last resort.
but we should never ever say potable water. We'll give you some water. But, I mean,
You might have to boil it.
It needs to be water that they can use for drinking, for cooking. They may have to boil it first, but it needs to be
Yeah.
water that they can use for drinking and cooking. And part of this falls under the health officer, part of it falls under the emergency management code.
yeah.
And when it starts getting into life safety, then I'm directed by the state to take action
As an emergency manager.
as an emergency
Not as the
manager.
select board.
Not as a
The
select
Townshend
board.
Select board, like, if your house is on fire, don't call the Townshend Select board. Call 911.
That's correct. However, it
Find a
becomes,
car accident, don't call the Townshend Select board. It's not,
as
that's not our job.
as it gets into life safety, making sure that the town has the plans in place to take action. Now, whether the select board decides to pull the trigger to take action, that's up to the select board.
We would,
But as far as I'm concerned, it's my responsibility to make sure that the plans are there,
Be prepared.
so that the
So
town is
that's more
prepared.
what you guys are looking
That
at.
is,
That's
that's all
what
we
we're
are
looking
looking
at.
at.
No, I just took it a different way, that's what.
It's
that's
all
why-
we're looking into
No.
is to make sure that the town is prepared. Otherwise, an
So, I
an
mean,
incident or an
30
emergency
wells
may
go
come
dry, we
up.
got some,
Right, then we would,
Yeah,
there,
but that, and
Well,
that's a
yeah.
different
no,
situation.
and that's why I was wondering where they're going was. I
the
just-
community chain there is very strong in Vermont and in any town, and something like that happens, I mean, that chain gets activated long before half the time we even know there's a crisis.
Right, but it's not gonna, it's good to be.
Yeah.
Oh, no, it's very
Sure,
good.
That's
prepared,
why I didn't
but
realize that's what it
I just
Yeah.
don't wanna think that we're gonna have a tanker of potable water sitting at
No.
the doorstep if your well goes dry, because, you know,
No.
we're not.
No, because we, especially the season that we're running into, I don't want to have a tanker full of water that I have to keep warm.
We got plenty of tankers up there.
Has
keep
the
them
rain
warm.
helped any, these people? I mean, we have been getting some rain, but.
Yeah,
nobody
it's-
has called me to let me know. Anita hasn't told me that anybody's called town hall to let her know.
Most of these people won't. I mean, I got a neighbor who's been pumping out of the brook all summer.
The problem being is that we just want to make sure before the ground freezes and the aquifer is shut off from replenishment, that we have a process in place to make sure that we have water. So that if we have a section of town that's,
More, do we, going with the parlor, I mean, how about water for fires? Have we got a chain in line for that?
water for fires, we have the fire pond, the village fire pond is fully functioning. It's being checked, the inlet channel of it is being checked on a regular basis. And we're slowly working through the rest of the town.
We have the river too.
We do have the river, we do have the streams, every time we get
A little more.
a little
We
bit
have,
more
we have,
rain.
we have an access down, right? Don't we have
There's
a
an
dry
access,
down?
there's a dry hydrant
Yeah,
down
down there.
at the river, there's a dry hydrant down behind, the dam diner. So, yeah. Fire, we're, continuing to work on the fire pump. So it's more of just making sure that we have the plans in place
Yeah.
in case the select board decides, okay, it's reached a point that we need to do something. It doesn't mean that the health officer and myself won't be sending you spam email to say, this is starting to get critical.
Yeah. But when we'll do a Red Cross, we called in on something like that.
The Red Cross wouldn't be called in on water until we've exhausted our resources. And we would call in the state before we would call in the Red Cross on water. Okay? We would call the Red Cross in if we need shelter, if we have a large section of the community that needs supplies, we could either call in the Red Cross or we could call in Vermont Emergency Management. But to call in Vermont Emergency Management, the select board has to declare a disaster.
Yeah.
So you'll know about that long before that happens. This is just making sure that we have the plans in place to back up a decision that the select board makes. Anything else for the health officer? Madam, do you have anything for us?
I don't have any updates. I haven't received any more complaints.
And you're going to send that information off to the state to... Thank you. Would you like to take... Could you have her wave at the camera?
Yeah,
Let Brattleboro Community Television...
Yeah, we can have her in the little way.
I did mine up the way.
That's it? That's good? That's it. Good.
Thank you.
They told me I couldn't wave the way I wanted to wave, so now wave.
Okay, has everybody seen the town clerk's report?
They
I have not.
Oh, I didn't see that.
I think we got that
Yeah, there should be one or two in there probably.
Any questions? Okay, hearing none. Bookkeeper treasurer's report.
Okay, we are at about the same amount in collections on the first quarter as we were the last time, and we've gotten a few more in, but we're hovering right around still 6% outstanding. We stand at $459,000 in the checkbook at the moment. And the only other thing I have, well, actually, I guess there are two things. One is we have a renewal on our insurance through VLCT Passive, and there were a couple of questions that I wasn't sure how I should answer. One of them is, it has to do with the constable. And the question is, does the first constable carry a weapon? And I knew there have been some issues about that. Do we say no, or do we say yes?
Yeah.
Well,
What's this
it's not,
for?
it's not
Not
sanctioned
as
by,
a, it's not as the,
not as the constable.
So you just carry it as a
That's, what he carries personal, but
What if something happens as he's doing it?
well, that's his personal. I mean, we have not,
We never,
the
Authorized.
town, and he doesn't meet the eligibility requirements.
yes, he doesn't training,
Because he
right?
hasn't done the training.
He has begun the training, I believe, but he's not completed
He
it.
has not completed it,
Right.
and the town has not authorized or sanctioned him to carry a weapon.
Right,
So,
okay. Well, the next question then is what duties does the first constable have? Animal control, law
Yes.
enforcement, security, enforce municipal ordinances, traffic control.
all right, go through those.
Say that
ones.
again, say that again.
This is for the insurance.
renewal for
Municipal
insurance, municipal insurance.
Animal control, yes.
Animal control, that's a yes.
Yes. First
Law
one.
enforcement is a
I'm
no.
not sure what they mean by law enforcement, so I say no.
Security,
No.
I don't really know what that means
I
either.
don't need to see it.
Enforce municipal ordinances
Yes.
and traffic control.
Yes.
Okay,
Traffic control will be partial,
close enough.
because you can't make traffic stops, but you can enforce.
That probably,
They can enforce
answers to
ordinances,
those
parking
questions
or
probably
sidewalk
have to do
and
with the liability insurance for the constable. And I think that, okay, then the only other was just to make sure that you felt comfortable on the numbers for the buildings. I know, I guess, Craig,
Oh,
you've
we've
gone
done
over
this
those
so
a
many
couple of
times.
times. I mean, we don't necessarily need to do anything with it, but, I think one of the concerns was,
Town hall value.
well, we have the town hall in at $1,370,000, and that's based on their, they send somebody around to do those, and it's guaranteed replacement cost. It's not historical replacement cost, it's just replacement cost. We wouldn't necessarily replace it with the same materials and stuff that we have now, you know, which is fine. We've got the salt shed in at $306,000. The garage at $459,000.
That's what it costs, less depreciation. That was a $450,000 building a couple of years ago.
The sand and salt shed. And the garage is in at $459,000.
And that was $550. No, it was $550 originally, plus minus.
Okay. No. No. I think probably on here, the only concern was, and Craig had brought this up, is for contents for the town hall, we've got it at $75,000. And I don't know, did you think that really wasn't
Well, it certainly doesn't cover the
sufficient?
bulk. It wasn't sufficient 2 years ago when it was only 15,000.
No, that's for sure.
But you couldn't replace what's in the town hall for 75. Go find
Well, I
tables
mean,
and
there's
chairs.
stuff in the vault that's
Computers and
priceless.
records
Yeah.
and Lister's office and whatever else. But anyway, that's better than it was. And we have guaranteed replacement on the building. And I think that also covers some of the contents in addition to.
Oh, it does?
I
Check the
don't.
vault, check to see if that don't cover the vault, the vault itself, not what's in it, but the vault
Yeah.
itself, because it's structural. The vault is structural. And
Oh,
my
so
guess is-
that would be
my
under
guess
the
is
building value,
when they
not
come in and
contents.
done their evaluation of the building, the vault is part of
Part
that.
of that.
That's why it's,
200,000 right there.
that's what I'm saying, and
Yeah.
that's why it's up to $1 million whatever, but that vault is structural, it's not a, check and see, but
Okay.
that's what we're gonna
Okay,
find.
all right, well, we'll see.
You know, I mean, computers and all that, you probably would replace what's in here for 75,000,
I have no
But
idea.
the biggest downside is the records and the paperwork, and I think there's other insurance involved in
Yeah.
that, being an historic building, I think
I
other
don't know,
things
some
too.
yeah,
I think
contents,
that
I don't, I mean,
we'll
some of that
go
stuff is not replaceable, but that's why it's on microfiche and someplace else. I mean, that's why we get them every
Yeah,
so
that's
often,
what
you
we
get
do.
them, yeah, so that we don't have to worry about that. So I think, you know, we're okay in that, you know, the new
And you
equipment's
checked
been
out
put
the-
on, and
You took off the vehicles, it didn't.
I did, yep, and Joe went over the fire department stuff, and, you know, we got our trucks on there, and so I think we're okay, we just have to fill out this thing every time. I think the only other thing I wanted to bring up, and it's down under old business, is the Transco thing. when the listers were in a couple of months ago for their errors and omissions list, Transco was on there, and the select board basically said, yeah, we agree with everything else, but we had some questions about Transco, about why there was a difference in, why they had to make the change downward. And it basically amounted to the listers read the wrong number off the piece of paper that the Transco sent. So, and
So Transco does their own evaluation, however, the appraisal guy, I'm sorry, I forgot his name, Mazeroff, he's supposed to evaluate that also, right, in his
well,
evaluation.
yeah,
So
but
if
that
there's
will be for next year,
a-
so
Well,
for
but if
this
there's a
year.
discrepancy, we're gonna be able to,
Well, hopefully he, I mean, hopefully he knows enough about that particular type of thing to determine whether or not.
well, that's part of what
being
we're paying
lowballed,
it for,
yeah,
so.
hopefully. But to correct for this current year, because the select board had not said yay or nay on the lister's request for an E&O, they did not do a revised tax bill for Transco, and of course, they're anxious to get their revised tax bill, because it's gonna
And I
come down
understand
some.
that, but we need the listers to come back to see us for, I mean, I don't think we're gonna just sit here and say, yeah, okay, whatever, Transco. If we haven't approved the error and omission on Transco, then I would suggest that the listers represent that.
Okay.
And that would be during a board of abatement meeting.
That's
It wouldn't be
right.
during a
No,
select
no,
board
it's
It's
not
so-
abatement, it's E&O, errors and
It's
omissions.
errors and
It was
omissions.
their error.
Because they made an error,
Okay.
but
they
they
can
need to
bring it to us.
bring that so we can sit and see what that error is and how it's gonna affect us, not, I don't even gonna sit here tonight and say, yeah, okay.
Okay, I will tell them that. They need to come.
I mean, we need some presentation for errors and omissions to approve it, to see where the error was and what it's gonna amount to, and how
Yeah,
it's
and of
gonna
course,
affect
that
us.
night, there was
Oh,
just
I mean, the
Howard
whole
here,
nine yards,
and we
you know,
didn't
it
really
was-
know, and, I had sent a follow-up email, and, basically what it is, Transco sends a sheet and gives them 2 or 3 different numbers, and they had read the wrong number off of the,
And that's okay, but they need to present that,
say that.
we need it in front of us so we can sit and look and
Okay.
They did send out a notice, but this was a month and a half ago, and there was question as to why why the change was so large, and you had asked for an explanation of that, which never really was forthcoming.
never was forthcoming, and that's why I think that we need to.
No, I'm just, yeah, right.
Okay, that's it for me. Be quiet.
Joe? Nothing?
The emergency management director's report is very slim. We continue to work with the schools. We do have an exercise that we're working up with schools and the hospital. It's going to be happening early in November. So we just continue to work on to keep making sure that the schools and the hospital are working together so that if an incident happens at one, everybody else is aware. So at this point, there's not a lot going on.
Is it, and I'm not sure if it's on emergency management that we talked about, but poker run for Grace Cottage?
It was under emergency management that we talked about it, and I contacted Grace Cottage, and they have the sheriff's department that is going to be sitting at each end, and they have also asked the CERT team, which is it's a community emergency response team that is led by the sheriff's department, and they are going to be providing traffic calming practices in addition to the sheriff's that they do. So, I don't know what is happening so far with the planning for the next year's Tour de Grace, but a large portion of that is dependent upon the roads being done in Jamaica, and I will make sure that do need to go back and look at the warrants. If you'd like to have a chance to look at the warrants, we can.
Wait, are you doing that? Any members of the public?
Not anymore.
Did
It was.
Holly already leave?
The one in the corner.
Is Holly, she doesn't have none for the members of the public, or is she?
That's good.
Holly, did you have anything under members of the public that you wanted to discuss?
Animal control.
Animal control.
Now, for some reason, I am the one that got the call on Saturday to come pick up the stray dog. And I just want to remind the select board that I work full-time. I am in graduate school. I have a toddler. I am also working very hard as the health officer, and my husband is currently deployed. To have to drive down to go and get the dog, and then take care of an extra dog, was a bit of a burden, especially while I was picking finals. So we need to make sure that we have a concrete plan in place.
And currently we have now appointed an animal control officer, 2 animal control officers.
Fantastic.
So they're, other than relying upon the good nature of council residents, and they will be, the animal control officers will be bringing a plan with protocols to the select board.
Excellent.
So that animals that are found wandering or not, if they are truly wandering in their home area, that they're gently led home and not picked up for extended stays.
Yes. Not staying at hotel microbats.
Well, thank you for taking care of it.
No, but it also means that with an animal control officer, somebody, even if they're not available on Saturday afternoon because they're out of town, if I go pick up the dog or Holly, if you know there's somebody that's going to take it off your hands within hours of their getting back, it's not like you have to take it to Eddie's house, which is what the situation was this weekend, which is what drove all this to it.
Yes.
That the board is not, I mean, you now have a layer of
So what's
responsibility.
our responsibility when the sheriff
It's a
takes
select
the
board.
dog?
It was well, because the board hadn't appointed an animal control officer, the select board became,
The animal control
by,
officer.
right, by default, the animal control officer is plural, which is why everybody got involved. And this ate 40, 50 hours of man hours for a stray dog. It wasn't a stray to begin with. Over the course of,
So they
18 hours.
the owner's been found?
No.
But apparently it's, the dog is identified and it's comfortable where it is and it's very close to home.
The dog wandered because it was hungry. Nobody was feeding it. But it never wandered. It never took off before. It was in the middle of Route 30, so it was a safety issue for the dog and.
Yep. Okay. So you want to go to warrants?
Need a
Yes,
motion?
sir.
Need a motion. On warrant.
That was one.
Okay, sorry.
I would move that we sign and approve warrant number 10035 for the town general fund in the amount of $2,671.62.
It needs a second.
Discussion. All those in favor say aye. Anyone opposed? Any abstentions? I would move that we approve warrant number 10032 for the highway fund. Unpaid invoices for checking account from town general fund from October 3rd, which isn't here yet. October 3rd, I don't understand that.
What I do is I put all the invoices in as being due the day that I'm actually gonna write the checks. So it's, all
But it's helpful
invoices.
if you have it from first
From
of
the last
yeah,
meeting.
from the, you see what I'm saying? This would be from 9/10/12 to 10/3/12. The date up there, instead of having all that date on the end. At least it's helpful to me because it gives you the time span of where we're paying
Okay.
invoices.
That's 2 weeks,
I mean, that's, I don't know if there's other discussion on
No,
yeah. The amount.
makes sense.
that. In the amount of $1,932.43. That was the motion. Motion made and seconded. All those in favor?
Right.
Those opposed? Any abstentions? I would suggest that you abstain, David, because you are getting money from this.
I can abstain on that.
Well, you have signed it, but I just, as a matter of protocol, maybe. I would move that we approve warrant number 10033 in the town equipment fund in the amount of $4,343.59. And again, the same thing with those dates, I think it would be very helpful. That was the motion.
Second.
All those in favor? Those opposed? Any abstentions? Warrant number 10034 from Townshend payroll from 9/9/12 through 9/22/12 in the amount of $7,553.52. That was the motion.
Second.
Discussion, all those in favor?
Right.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Warrant number 10031 from the town general fund, and again, the date piece, through October 3rd, 2012, in the amount of $14,279.41. That was a motion.
Second.
Discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Right.
Those opposed, abstentions.
I'm gonna abstain on that one.
Thank you. Can we back up to discussion? I did, that's why I held that up. There's a contract, a bill in here from Mazeroff assessing for $8,508. My memory says that we paid him last month $4,000 something.
Yeah, that was the June bill. I think this one is, he's now billing for July and August.
Yeah, it is July and August, but it was June bill.
That we paid
Last
last
one?
time. Mhm. Yeah. And he had held off submitting the bill for July and August because he had gotten, he hadn't been here because he had been off on another job. Now he's here, he's hired extra help.
I haven't seen him right
That was his,
You have?
now. Got me at the store and stuff.
actually, he was in town today, I saw him, he was here today. Still says he's on track to have all the site visits done this fall, so. And I think he has been, I think one of the listers has been going out with
Working with
him.
him?
Right, didn't Howard go with him one day last week? And
I didn't know
Robin, I
last
think,
week.
Monday.
Okay, we've gotten down to correspondence, and since you're
You're
Vice
doing well.
Chair.
Keep going, you're doing fine.
all right, correspondence, V-Trans easement permit.
We have from Vermont Transportation Association Authority, this is an authority. Hold on.
Do we have a copy of that?
We actually,
I didn't get to it.
yeah, no, and there's a reason, I'll show you real quick as I share. Kurt looked at it, this is just it's an insignificant. They're requesting that the board sign off on a maintenance agreement, giving them permission to This is Harmonyville Bridge here. They want to park right there for like 10 minutes. But they need a, well, and I'm probably understating the whole thing. They're doing some bridge improvement projects. They need access and they need this.
To what? To just park?
Well, it's probably considerably more than that, but they're creating a safer intersection there. There's another part of this. This is a duplicate.
Well, are they gonna be
And this is,
any excavating work or anything?
no,
It's within the.
but it is at the bottom of East Hill Road.
They realign the area.
And take a look at this maintenance agreement. Anyway, Kurt knows about it. It's no big deal. It's pretty standard.
What they're doing, they're trying to make that 90 degrees. You know, when you pull on.
I see what they want us to do.
Oh, so what are they gonna do, put like a curb there or something?
Yeah, no, I don't know. See, they want to.
Yeah, they wanna take this little wing off.
They want to put this road now come like this, that's where it is now.
So are they going to do some excavating and
Well,
stuff?
we're gonna have to come over on that property soon.
I was gonna, isn't that, Mr.
Looks like
Shines?
No, this is Sean's down here, this
It's
is.
East Hill. It's East Hill, here's Sean. But it looks like they're going to move it south. Just a little bit.
Here's the existing.
There's the
There's
existing.
and then there's the existing.
To make that a safer intersection. Moving away from that
Why would
bridge.
that be on the top of V-Trans list of all the things that have to happen in the state of
Isn't
Vermont?
it amazing?
Why do they pick
That's
stuff
gonna
like
make it harder to
this?
plow. Used to pull
I
in there and
just, I
plow.
don't get it, it
Well,
just
this
seems
way,
like,
they
you know,
won't
all
get
the
rid of
work that went into this.
90-degree turns, they don't want you to know that.
I understand that, but, you know, after I
No,
read,
they're
there's a
gonna be
lot of
working
stuff in
under
the
the
state of
pit.
Vermont that needs to be taken care of,
There
and
are
I don't
people
think
losing
this is
sleep
one of them.
over it. People losing sleep over that. Somewhere.
It just does not make any sense.
So it is, it is, I mean, they'll be in there
That's concrete curb.
putting a curb or something in. You know, you're supposed to get something out of that.
Maybe if you're Chad,
Yeah.
I totally understand it.
have an engineering degree,
That's what I'm paying for my daughter to learn.
is that what she's
That's
supposed to
it.
Jeez.
It probably costs more to draw that than it will be to do the job.
Really?
I mean,
Good for
in
her.
Yeah.
reality.
She doesn't want to go out.
There'll be any must be that.
She must know.
Oh, she doesn't.
That's
Well,
more
we have to,
simple.
But it doesn't sound like, to me, this doesn't sound like they were going out of our
It's
way.
got,
They're right.
it probably costs more to
I
serve.
didn't notice on real and
Good
paving.
for her.
Okay, totally in France and one thing.
She hates everything.
Located within Vermont, Route 9.
Look at something.
So if it's in there right away, why do we need to get?
Because it's still town highway, that's why, because that's our road. Feet, which is quite a step, isn't it? I mean,
No,
it's not really, but
And they get re-up there. And they still got the phone booth over there by the Sony. The phone booth's still over here by the picture. Hasn't been there in the last 40, 30 years.
no, I wouldn't think so.
It's over here now. Pumps are gone.
Maybe that's just got a phone booth wiring or something. Who knows?
I think, you know, I think it was over.
Why are we releasing it? Just trying to remember, man.
I don't think we should.
If it's in there right
They
away.
have been
Part of that
around
agreement-
for
Look at
15
the tree.
years.
You got the biggest sycamore in town.
But part of the agreement says that Townshend releases them from,
Any and all damages or claims of damages now or in the future in connection with the right and obligation herein contained.
Is that because they're doing the work on East Hill Road?
Well, it's in there right away.
But it's still in there right away, that's what I don't understand. I don't know how that works.
But it's also within our right of way.
Right.
Well, for the segment, well, I mean, if it's segmented for the
We
segment that's in
maintain
our
it,
right of way,
right?
their work.
Yeah,
Yeah,
we plow
it's
it.
We
maintained.
have a problem.
We plow that. We'll maintain and plow it and, you know.
But I guess I would, now to what you understand in the agreement, you know that highway stuff,
Well,
I mean, you work it every day.
I know, but they're making all these agreements are done when I get there. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
See, they're ending their agreement right on the right of way line. This is what, begin maintenance agreement period number 1. They're ending it here, right? And this looks to me like all the work's still going back here.
Well, then I would
Begin and
suggest,
end, right? 13, 12, 13, 12.
yeah, well,
Yeah,
18
31 feet.
18 feet wide, 31 feet wide, so they're going 21 feet. It doesn't make any sense.
so I would suggest that either you know who to talk to about
I
this,
don't know who
or invite them to the next select board meeting before we sign this.
see, I don't know, right away, trade. You know what I mean? It doesn't make any
It
sense.
doesn't make sense, this drawing doesn't make sense to me, because it looks like they wanna go here, and that's way out of their right of way.
And plus, that's nothing to do with the agreement.
That's
It's
right.
ridiculous to have the agreement
That's right.
back to,
So, I think we need some clarifications and explanations.
I agree.
And if you wanna do that, Chad, or we can invite them to the next meeting, I guess it don't matter.
When did it happen to this be in?
Does it
I'd
say?
have them come or give us an explanation.
Yeah.
This is where they're
Well,
going.
I think the commissioners could
Just
probably
right away,
accept
right? Is that what you're
a
saying?
discussion with them before the next meeting, which is.
I think,
Yeah,
well, honestly, I
until
think they should be
15.
here discussing what they're doing down road, anything. I mean, that's well within.
That's well outside of their right of way, and it's shifting the town road.
Yeah.
And it's a section that we're gonna have to be doing a lot of work on,
That's channel.
traveling over and
Yeah.
to get East Hill
So here's town,
done.
maybe they have it, here's our town road. I don't understand what
I
they're
don't
doing.
understand what they're doing. Their map is,
I think we need to
Too
contact
messy.
them and invite them to the next meeting to.
Maybe, I think maybe we're thinking that they're gonna do more than next.
Yeah, I think so too, but I think that before I'm willing to
So,
sign it.
part of the deal, or? Appropriate funds, district, and control maintenance. They just want us transferred to the town control. The only section they want us to release is what's in there right away. Probably know about real and town, and down PVC intersection. Yeah, I think it's just as easy
But
to
it
explain.
says, yeah, because the state turns over and the town accepts the right and obligation for future maintenance, repairs, and whatever they're gonna do.
so they are going to realign the road to make it a safer intersection, and then the town's gonna have to maintain it. And at the same time, have to hold them harmless.
But we do that anyway, I think.
Yeah, well, I mean, we are right now. So-
But I don't know why we discharge them from stuff that's in there.
Because- No.
I
Let's
don't know.
get
Let's have somebody-
clarification. Can you do that?
It's up to you, I tried it.
If you can try to, and if you can't, then
Yeah,
get back to the board and let us know.
You want me to keep one
Does
copy?
he have the plans in it?
Yeah.
That also has plans in it, yeah.
I'll call that, because it says, what's it?
It's
So
got
we
the
can table this.
district coordinator on there as well.
All right.
We can use it for grant. For some needs a grant. Call Bill. I would-
Wyndham
So
Solid
what are
Waste.
they gonna do if you don't sign it?
And the Wyndham Solid Waste we took up earlier in Kurt's,
Kurt believes that the plan, the safety accident plan, and contingency plan, I can't remember the name of it, I guess I got it
safety
right
accident
here.
and contingency plan.
Safety accident contingency plan for this site is probably, as I think we talked about, a hazmat plan. This is for the solid waste collection, hazardous waste day coming up on November 3rd. But Wyndham Solid Waste isn't actually doing the pickup, which they have done in years past. Clean Ventures out of Framingham is. So they're now asking for select board signature. And included, did I give you a copy? I guess I didn't.
Yeah.
Oh, you do? Okay, this is what I saw that threw me off. I can do the math, I can get, well, you guys can sign. But that one, we don't particularly have. Kurt said that that is something that they provide.
I would like to see that in
And-
advance of that.
In
If they're
advance of
going to
signing.
provide it so that we have it, and can review it before we.
Well, it should be
sign.
on the little hut anyway, because we get hazardous waste.
That's
probably.
what, I met with them when they came up. Remember from the last meeting, I said that I would meet with Wyndham Solid Waste Management. They come up and looked at the bins. Irv and I were both there when that happened, and they were talking about this then. Irv was supposed to get all of that stuff in order, so I'm not sure just where he's at with that.
Okay, but Kurt is also going to check, so we can follow up on that.
Yeah.
Again, it's over a month away, but we need to.
Somebody should get a touch base with her and anything.
I mean, this is the first time that they've requested that the select board sign a piece of paper saying it's okay to have a hazmat, hazardous waste pickup day, household hazardous waste pickup day, and it's the first time that they've asked for any kind of plans by the town, and we don't.
Well, I'll suggest that we table this till the next meeting.
I'll do that also.
In the meantime, but
Did they need a response earlier than that?
No, there isn't a date. I think let's see.
no, I think they're okay with that.
There is a date of it starting November 3rd, correct?
Yeah.
So that
And it's only for a short period. It's not a couple of period hours.
yeah. So, you know,
And I'll continue with that meeting just a little bit. They wanted to put in a third bunker,
dumpster.
and have us, well, they wanted us to separate cardboard and newspaper. But our discussion, Irv and I suggested they not do that. Number one, because you don't have the space. We don't. There's just not enough space up there. And in the discussion, Wyndham Solid Waste said that, well, you could still commingle them, but it would be easier if we, so it was really kind of like they just wanted a third thing that we didn't have.
Why are other places going to zero, so they
And
can't?
that may be here, but they were just going around looking at every town, and then they're gonna make suggestions and that sort of thing.
Yeah,
Okay.
we're maxed out up there.
Yeah.
All right, correspondence, we did receive correspondence from Rescue Inc.
Right, and that just came in this afternoon. I did not make copies of it, but I will post haste because we have a budget meeting next week, next Tuesday night. But they have numbers here for, I'll just pass it along. They have numbers here for proposed contract for 2013-14.
Yeah, well, we'll be discussing this in the budget anyhow, right?
Right.
Yeah.
So, there's
Let's see it.
2 copies.
Excuse me.
More than last year.
Oh, yeah.
Incremental more than last year.
Be more.
And we received correspondence from the Townshend Church
Yes.
that they're looking for a letter of support from the select board that they can add to their historic preservation grant application. Looking for
I
structural improvements to the church.
certainly think that we should support the historic preservation grant. I can't imagine that it would mean any changes to the structure itself. I think it's just, you know, updating and.
It's just updating and making sure that it's not gonna fall apart.
Yeah, it said it was here, but I was talking to the guy that's supposed to be doing it, and he's pretty much just pulling it, stabilizing the building and starting to
Yeah.
get old. Was it 200 years old or something?
Right.
So I would suggest that we write a letter of support for the Townshend Church in their application for historic preservation grant.
Can I draft something for Eddie? We can just have her.
Yeah. Support it.
Is that favorable?
Yeah.
Yes, indeed.
Very good.
We also got correspondence from Winter Regional Commission saying that the work of the planning commission, they confirmed that our town plan was approved. So, Craig, are you gonna make sure that a copy of the approved plan is mailed to the DHCA commissioner?
I can.
If one has
I
it.
haven't seen the approved plan yet, and we'll talk about that with Art, but yeah,
Okay.
we'll make sure that it gets there.
Are we going to have copies to put out here at the town office, or?
We should, it's usually, the town plan is usually a pretty good sized book, and
Yeah.
it's usually part of the planning commission's expense budget to make sure
I
that,
think they do that.
yeah,
They do
100,
that.
200,
Okay.
something like
Yes.
that. But we'll make sure that wherever they need to go, they go.
Okay. Do you need this copy?
No, I've got it. Thanks.
All right. There's that. There's that. Any other correspondence?
Yes, there's a memorandum from Anita concerning the general election on November 6th, and she needs us all to be there to help count ballots at the end of the day, starting at 7 o'clock.
Board of Abatement.
Board of Civil War.
Yeah.
You're right.
Yep.
6.
6.
Tuesday.
There's about 70 people coming.
Well, hopefully we have to turn some back, and we'll have to pick straws and. who
No,
has to
she's
leave.
got it
She's
set
got
up into
orders.
teams. I think she's
Yeah.
got
Well, we've
planning
always
on so
had,
many.
Oh, it's always
people.
been a good turnout, and I know that we get out early. She thinks it's always 10 or 11, but we're usually out 2 hours before she is, so she's got to call Secretary of State.
when the polls close and you get settled in and ready to count ballots, it's 8 o'clock, we start counting,
Yeah.
and so it's a couple hours, we got to work. I mean, it's
Yeah.
10 o'clock.
Mhm.
That's good.
Okay. Any other correspondence? Hearing none, let's go into old business. The East Hill Road project update. The plans have been drafted and sent on to A-Trans, and I have to, or V-Trans, I have to get V-Trans to make a commitment one way or the other. I've been working with Mr. Sanderson to try to get us ready to go into the pre-bidding and bidding process. So we had sent information out and heard back late last week from Ben Rose, who's in charge of working with the FEMA grants, and he's the state liaison to FEMA, and he pushed it on toward V-Trans, and so we haven't heard word back, but I will contact them tomorrow and see if we can move forward. There's really nothing that we need to do as a select board prior to it going out to bid, and we're going to need to make sure that it goes to a bidders conference so that everybody can have a site visit. And so I'll continue moving forward with that. I'd like to have the bid come in by the first meeting in November, so that we can start awarding bids, which means that the bidders conference has to be within the next week and a half.
All right.
At
It
this
looks like
point,
we're gonna be doing that to the winter. You don't think,
no.
you think, all right. Once you get started.
once we get started. The plans, Stevens and Associates have put together are
You can't go road on it.
that seem to me to be fairly consistent, simple plans. They're using some of the existing roadway there to reduce the grade, to reduce the amount of fill that we need, as we've discussed. We'll move forward with that.
They're gonna have it all broke down on what they gotta bid for items.
They're going to be handling that portion of the bid to make sure that it's all broken down. And we really can't do any of the change order or alternate project specifications out to FEMA until we hear what the individual bidders are suggesting. Because that will then have impact and input into the change order and into the alternate project, depending upon what information we get back from the bidders. So it's more or less just gearing up to make sure that we're ready and have the capacity to do that FEMA paperwork once we get information back from the bidders. And then once we award the bid, we'll start pushing paperwork together.
I mean, I just highly recommend we should give them at least 2 weeks on a project that size
To bid on it, yes, which means I would like to be able to, I mean, we're looking right now at the 1st.
so no later than end of next week.
I would like to have the conference no later than the end of next week, which means we have to have the information from V-Trans saying that they're approved our plans, our tentative plans, so that we can put it out to the bidders.
I mean, I guess even going in.
Because we're still pushing the November 5th meeting to award bids. So this week, we have to have, by the end of this week, we have to have this process started so that on the 12th, we can have a conference. Okay.
Oh, you can stress that to the state, right?
I'm going to stress that to the state, definitely. You got all those dates?
No.
Transco evaluation, we discussed that. Town hall fire doors.
That's pretty much on hold at the moment. That should be, by the 15th, we should have some more specific information, and hopefully by November 1st, we should have some local contractors bidding. I've talked about the Servo. There was some question as to the cost of the doors that were originally proposed by the architect. Not that they weren't good doors, but they were very expensive, and 2 of the contractors said that they were much more expensive than they thought they needed to be, but that was part of why their proposals, their estimates were so very, very high. So there is an effort to see if other doors of equal fire rating and of equal historic aesthetic are available. Not much is returned on that, so we will have an ad in the paper for local proposals here probably this week. And Bob DeServo and maybe one board member can take a look at whatever comes back before the 1st November meeting, and we can get this on. This doesn't need to be done, and it probably won't be done until sometime in the winter, December, January. Anyway.
Well, whatever happens, it cannot be half done at town meeting day.
Oh, no, they certainly, well, and then the fire marshal, I think, wants them done by the end of January, as a matter of course, if they can be.
Can't have it tore apart and have town meeting. We don't need that.
But the projected $7,500, $8,000 cost was a huge chunk. And some contractors thought that was just too much for them to put on their own tab up front to do this over the course of whatever time frame was allowed. And so anyway, I've been talking about the Servo a little bit on that. We'll come up with a plan for the board for the 1st meeting in November to keep this going, keep the ball rolling on.
Animal control. Further to that, we have a it's not tentative, it's not necessarily draft. We have a sample contract for animal holding with the Wyndham Humane Society.
That's actually last year's. A new one is forthcoming. That one is, right, that was the one that came last October. I just copied it for the board, for board members yesterday for that special meeting yesterday, just so you could see what it looked like last year. This year's, according to, can't remember her name, I just talked to her this afternoon about 4 o'clock, they did call back. They are working on a proposal. They will have something for us probably this week before the budget meeting. And I said that the board wanted to look at it, would potentially consider it, but obviously it's something that's going to have to be budgeted for. So anyway, we should have a proposal this week. It wasn't available today. They didn't have it available on PDF or email or anything like that. I wanted it for tonight. But we will have a proposed, hopefully a proposed contract for next year from them, at least to review, see what the numbers look like, and see if that's a direction that maybe the board wants to consider. But last year's was, well, what it was.
I mean, I missed yesterday's meeting, so we appointed the constables as the officers,
Appointed the constables as the animal control
but they don't
officers.
want to take care of the animals. Is that what
The problem with that is a matter of having the space and the round-the-clock care that might be necessary, contacting or contracting with a veterinarian. One of the things that the Humane Society does, and I'm not advocating necessarily for them or against them, one of the things they do, however, is they will take any animal from any resident of the town, any law enforcement officer or member of government at any time. You get a code number to push the door, you can go in and find an empty cage or kennel and leave an animal behind, give them a call. They'll come and take care of it at whatever rate they charge, but they'll also make sure that it has basic medical care, and they will make an effort to help you find the owner.
But if nothing else, this gives us additional information so that we can consider.
No, I think it's good. I didn't know what was going on.
Yeah, and I didn't know where we stood either. I wasn't able to make it yesterday. It was just.
And it is a valuable point of contact until we get more word around that we do have animal control officers in town. I mean, my concern Saturday night was somebody was missing a dog, but they didn't have any clue as to who they might call as to where it might be or whether it was lost overnight or something like that. And I think 5 or 6 or 7 of us knew where it was, but I mean, it wasn't generally available. And the information
it's
wasn't
something
available.
that we have to address as a town. I mean, we, fortunately or unfortunately, we were spoiled for many, many years by Mitch Putnam's generosity and his ability to handle
Very
animal
quietly,
complaints
behind the
and
scenes.
it was wonderful. And it's too bad that we've lost that, but it is. So it's something we're going to have to find out, or at least figure a way that we're all amenable to dealing with the problem we have to deal with.
And the only other option that we discussed during the meeting yesterday, Hetty was going to look and see if there were individuals in town that did not have a dog, but that had a dog kennel or run and the capacity to shelter them if we needed them. So in the meantime, we're also working on that regard and expect more information on that, so that if something happens in the future.
Well, hadn't we, last year when we were talking about this many times with dog ordinance and everything, hadn't Sarah Bernard made an offer or was thinking about doing something there, or?
All hearsay. I never heard
Okay.
her.
Okay.
I don't think she ever personally came to.
I mean, there are people, I think Warren expressed an interest yesterday in being a provider for, the provider of a shelter for a
For
dog.
temporary.
I certainly have, I mean, on a temporary basis, I'll take a dog.
Yeah.
But I want to know that I'm not the last person standing and I'm going to end up owning it. I mean, I want the board to take it away from me after 24 to 48 hours. But as also was pointed out this weekend is the liability factors. Are you sanctioned by government to take this animal if the animal gets hurt while it's in your care, or if that animal bites a child or gets into a tangle with another dog that doesn't have tags? You know, do you know it doesn't have rabies or distemper? There are issues involved in this, and if the owner sues because you took the dog, you know what I mean? So, I mean, are you indemnified by the town? Therefore, it needs to flow from government in order to, You now have animal control officers who are sanctioned and have insurance and all of
Yeah,
that
yeah.
to do what they're appointed to do. And that makes a huge difference in the willingness of people to
So,
step in. And I haven't wanted to, put up a kennel or buy something and spend my money on it. And this doesn't happen very often.
No,
But Warren said yesterday he would take it, but he didn't have a place to put it. I would take it, but my garage door doesn't close, and I've got 2 dogs in the house and 1,000 things going on. There are any number of people, but with a little heads up, with a little lead, those facilities can be made available for temporary, 24, 48-hour kind of thing. And if the Humane Society, if you guys, look at that and decide to go with that, then that becomes even perhaps better because they have the care that an animal might need. But most of
Hopefully
these
our new officers will use a little common sense too. I mean, I don't know how far away the dog was picked up, but.
Well,
doesn't sound
the only
very
reason,
far.
and the only reason he picked it up because it wasn't moved there.
I know, but
And I never saw that dog on there myself, but.
how long would it take him to go into the damn diner and send you? Or just,
I'm certain
Just-
they would use,
Well, that's-
they would use common sense because
No, I'm glad that.
we discussed it yesterday.
Yeah.
It's just a little ridiculous.
All right, cemetery rights of way.
Eddie's got all that.
Hetty has all of that, other than the right of way that we were granted from the EWP work that's being done on Hollandburg and Bixby.
now has that work started yet?
That work is going to start this
Today
week.
was the technical possible start date, but I don't think that it began today. But contracts were signed today
Contracts were signed.
and mailed into the Army Corps of Copy was sent to the Army Corps of Engineers today, as they requested. And I believe, I didn't look at it, but I believe it listed today as a start date. Or this week it
Today is
didn't.
the start date.
But David got Charlie.
Mr. Marchant signed all the contracts for the town, and the contractor was signing them for himself. He was happy with them.
Good.
There is one change that the board needs to be aware of, and it deals mainly with the southernmost section of the stream control, where when it was laid out by Mr. Adams of NRCS, he had laid it out with the debris that's being removed from the stream being laid outside of the floodplain, but outside of the mowed area behind the lower soccer field goal. So behind the field goal, there's a section of ground that's not at the stream bank level, it's above the stream bank, that Leland and Ray isn't mowing. And that's the area that he was planning on putting all the debris. And at the meeting that they had with the contractor, after the bid had been awarded, and with a representative of Leland and Gray, the representative of Leland and Gray said, no, you can't store it there because it's going to be a health hazard for the children. So the contractor said for an additional $300, he can haul all of that material out. And if we have that done as part of the package, then we should only have to pay 1/10 of that.
That's the part that's covered by the
We're
grant.
still over
That would
the
be the-
second bid.
Yeah.
Right. So, but I just want
Correct,
everybody to
it's
be
still
aware.
lower than the second bid.
It's
now.
still lower
I
than the
mean,
second bid.
It certainly needs to be made official tonight, I think, so a revision of the contract. I think that it needs to be a motion because it's a money thing.
It's a money thing, and so yes, we do need a motion
So it would be a motion to
increase.
approve the revised contract for the lower portion of cleaning the riverbed for an increased fee not to exceed $300. That was the motion.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Further discussion? Sorry.
Go ahead.
Sometimes oh.
All those in favor?
All right.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Thank you, sir.
You two make a team.
Damn road trees.
The damn trees, huh?
The damn trees. Jeff?
Well, supposedly, the Bo's found the trees he wants. You know, that Newfane greenhouse, Shea Wilson. They can get them for $2,500. And I guess that's, we gotta dig the holes in jail, plant the trees, and they're guaranteed for a year.
Guaranteed for a year?
Yeah,
And all we do is dig the holes.
yeah.
And that was the end of the story, right? No coming back the following year, right? For any more trees, correct?
No, this would be,
This is it.
this is the tree.
Well,
Yeah, oh yeah,
that we
no, we're
talked
not gonna
about-
plant we're not gonna plant more trees next year. We're planting
No, but that
these
was the
trees.
first. that was
We
the
have to
first option.
somehow have him sign a contract or
These,
sign the.
planting these trees, and,
Townsend's.
I never did get the number of trees.
But from what Bo was saying, trees are gonna be planted, but in between the trees are gonna be bushes planted that'll fill in between the trees and the bushes.
And that's all included in the $2,500.
All included, and that will finish up that section of that project.
Jay was the cheapest out of the other ones that we suggested.
Is Newfane Greenhouse undertaking the planting? I mean, if the holes are dug, they will
Yeah.
come and put
Oh,
the
yeah.
peat moss in and
Yeah.
plant them.
Well, yeah,
And guarantee them for a year.
yeah.
What they,
I don't know, something like that, because
That's
Norwegian,
not our responsibility. What I'm saying is,
Norwegian
if we
spruce or
agree to
something.
do this, then
We gotta do it.
then Bo needs to sign off that
Yeah,
the town, that's it. We planted the trees. If they die, he's gotta go after Jay Wilson. If somebody steals them at Christmas,
that's not our
that's not
problem.
our problem.
Only if we plow them down.
But where
Well,
I
I don't think we can do that. They're way off the road.
Norwegian spruce or
Oh,
something.
way off.
That's not a big,
I don't think.
that's not a big,
It's not like a booster.
no, like I said, don't wanna pay for buying blue spruce and put them there, cause they probably won't last this year. But, so I think we gotta,
I would
Get
entertain a
something.
motion to purchase trees and shrubbery for the Dam Road property from Newfane Greenhouse.
not to exceed.
I'd press not to exceed $2,500 and with approval from
The landowner,
the landowner.
and a written, a writing thing?
That's the right
One of those writing things? A feather and
Okay,
an
is it gonna be planted by Newfane
ink
Greenhouse?
well? What's that?
Planted and guaranteed.
Yes, but we're gonna drill, dig the hole, which is gonna take
Yeah,
up
that's,
the,
right.
the town, the guys, road crews,
He
gonna
didn't
dig
see,
the hole.
we talked, did we talk about that Thursday? Somewhere we did. And he said it wasn't a big deal, you could reach over and do it.
Yeah,
Okay, not to exceed 2,500
and I talked about it.
and contingent
before
upon,
you guys started.
contingent upon an end agreement.
An end agreement.
And then, yes, we gotta make up, do we have to make up some sort of an agreement? And not to put more on
I can-
your guys' plate, but you're gonna be there.
We're gonna be there. so
Which won't be signable or signed until after the trees are planted.
Until after
But this
the
is
trees are
right. But
planted, but
This motion is contingent upon that coming forth.
Yes, I
And it's
mean,
gonna be contingent, as the trees are planted, then we'll,
We're not gonna wait a year and then you can.
no, as this done and the trees are in the ground, we're done. We're stepping away.
So Jeff made that motion. Second.
We don't wanna hear about the ones being cut down, Christmas trees.
any further discussion? All those in favor, signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Thank you. Grafton Turn and Gravel Pit Timber. I have some additional research on the boundaries of the gravel pit that I'm doing, but I do not have it prepared at this time. I would like to have, I plan to have it prepared in time for the next meeting. I think that it would behoove us, and we still have a little bit of time to determine how much land we want to timber, both at the Grafton Turn and if we want to timber any at the gravel pit. so that before the ground gets, so that we're capable of doing that we'll have time to put that out to bid.
In the meantime, do you think we should try to contact the stream guy to see if he's gonna allow us to come across the brook in the winter?
We
I
did.
guess I could probably try to do that.
Yeah, if you
Todd
want.
Denise? Yeah.
I mean, it would take 2 months to get hold of it.
That's a correct term.
What do you think about, when we're talking about forest and cutting trees at the gravel pit and that sort of thing? I think that you have to be careful, we don't go in there and strip it, because you're gonna get washouts and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So if we have a forester going in there and out what's harvestable,
And what's,
what's not.
Tree work.
I mean,
Is that?
Well, that's what we were
Timber
thinking,
inspector? I mean-
select would be cutting that, but if we could, well, we have somebody in there to clear whatever we need to help us out in the tent area.
Specifically, there's quite a few of the large timber trees that if the bank is pushed back any further, they're gonna be down in the pit.
yeah,
So
those are obvious, that have.
No, but we were trying to maybe offset the cost to have somebody do that, maybe with some of the timber
right,
above there.
right, which is okay, and it should be harvested, I don't think it has been for quite a
For
while.
quite a while, and you're correct in stating that we should have the town forester go through
Yeah.
and point out what trees we should be taking out.
Yep.
And, but before we do that, we need to get the Belstrom right away and screw it
Yes.
off.
Do you think we should get our, is it Carl that would do that?
Carl is the tree warden, the forester
What's
is
Otto?
Carl.
Autos before.
He is.
Timber inspector.
How was it? How's it work?
Maybe I'll try to just give him a heads up, so if he
Yeah.
has time, he could at least up on the
Take a walk
ground.
up in there and see what's going
It'd be
on.
nice if he might have cut most of it.
Draft and
Oh,
turn, that's what
draft and
everybody said, you might just not.
But I think you ought to cut some, there's some nicer timber up by the dump area. I mean, it might be worthwhile to get some.
Why don't
bucks
you
for it.
ask- If you want, go ahead and ask them to scope that out, and we'll maybe mark it right.
This would be the time to start getting in.
Yep.
Fuel metering, we're still waiting on equipment to be delivered, and I have a site plan that I have to do and send to them, so the equipment's on order. So as we get closer,
So it's in the work,
it's in the works,
starting.
it's starting.
I
You
got
think
their
we'll
check.
have, you think we'll have it going by, when, I mean, do you have any kind of time?
I'm thinking that we're gonna have it going by December, easily by
No.
So
December.
it'll be,
Yeah.
the field is, it'll be right there in the plowing.
As part of that, I haven't touched base with Rescue, but Rescue was going through and looking at their existing contracts. I figured if we went and started with an existing contract, then we can mark up one.
Yeah, yeah, it'd be a good place to start.
And then that way we can work with Rescue Inc. And we discussed it with the fire department, so, everybody will be on board and we'll be able to start. We'll have more data than we can deal with, but that's okay.
Well, yeah, then you can figure out
We
what is
figure out what we
usable
need.
and what you don't really need to.
Exactly. And the fire department heating system, touched base with the fire department. The fire department felt that going with change to hot water heat seemed to be too expensive without understanding what other alternatives are there. One of the members of the fire department was able to take a sample down and get a sample of the water tested at his line of work. And as everybody knows, there's a lot of iron content there. Mr. Jeffers still feels that the best way to mitigate that is to switch that from steam heat to hot water heat. So I'm still continuing information.
Whatever. One thing that would help is that upstairs radiator is cracked. and that's one source of their leaking and taking more water, so. That'd be,
If we could reduce
reduce the
need.
water take, it would help, but it's still going, whenever it flashes the steam, it's still just eating the copper out, cast iron.
I think everybody's agreed upon the need for a small water heater to provide hot water for the bathroom.
Well, I got that 20-gallon water heater all dropped off at the firehouse. It held water until 4 weeks.
When it started leaking?
Yep. And I'll leave it there, and they have some members that I'm sure can make it work. It's all you gotta do. It's 120 volt. All you gotta do is plug it into a outlet.
I will appreciate that, and I'll keep the board appraised of what's moving forward with that. Conflict of interest policy, without Hetty here, I would prefer that we hold off to discuss that until all members are present. And we've got ancient roads added to old business.
I don't know if we want to talk about, I'd just like to talk about the meeting the other night amongst ourselves. I don't know if you want to do it on camera or.
You want an example?
You can't, I don't know if you can go into
You can't go into executive session.
Well, basically, I don't think the meeting went very well at all. In my personal opinion, I don't think we answered any questions they threw at us, first off. We had really no reasoning behind any of our decisions.
I think that
And
I think that there's more research being done. I know that Hetty has been in here several times last week, looking through the town books.
And you have residents in here every day.
So,
A couple of them here.
which is fine, you know.
Oh,
I just,
yeah, no.
I thought I didn't think we presented ourselves very well.
Well, first I'll apologize for not being here. I could not, there was no way that I could be here because of previous engagements. But from the workshop and from everything that we've discussed about that, it was we needed to make this stance before we could proceed with any of the others. And that was my understanding from the directives of the whole meaning of all of this. We need to take a stance in a time period, correct?
Yes, that's
In
what
a
I
given
understood.
time period,
We
and
were-
we needed to, if we didn't declare that as a class 4, and then come back to it and do a trail or
And I
do
thought,
whatever, that it was
and I
gone
thought we
anyhow.
wanted to try to hang on to everything we could.
That's what I thought too.
And I don't
Well,
know,
which we did everything, we
I
agreed
mean,
upon
what-
except for doing all of them. We did not do all of them, which
no, we didn't do everything. Well,
we agreed on
Well,
in the
like,
workshop, we were going to do.
How
all of them.
come,
Well, like
again, I wasn't here, so I
Greenwood
can't-
Drive, I don't know,
I don't know if we could discuss
I don't know if
why
we
we
can-
did, right?
we can
We
discuss
can
why we
dis-
did Greenwood Drive
we
without
don't have,
without it being set up as a road
you know,
in the
there's
town
no record of
books.
it.
If there's no records of it, then
Then we
we
can't.
would be building a new road. There may be a road bed there, but it may have been built as a farmer, moving sheep from one area
Yeah, it
to
may have been
another.
on a handshake and that was it.
But it was nothing that was set up as a town road. And so therefore, without finding it set up as a town road in the town volumes, then we don't have the authority to
As
take that road.
any legal right of way, you don't have,
Which I agree, but why didn't we talk about this
because of
Sunday at the
the,
workshop?
well, there's a lot of research that Eddie's been trying to do, and it's, I didn't know where she was in it. I thought there were gonna be 2 or 3 roads that were declared, maybe 4, depending, 1 or 2 discontinued. And she said that her research was continuing, and I thought that as of Sunday, when we left here, that she was pretty comfortable with the decisions that were made. She didn't speak up at the meeting. I found out Sunday night a little bit that some of the roads, like Greenwood Drive, hadn't been found yet. And that made me a little nervous about the meeting on Monday night, which I also wasn't at. But, you know, I cautioned her against going too far down a trail if you didn't have a legal precedent for doing it, because it's taking property by eminent domain or declaring that this is a town road when you don't have the standing to do that. And what you're doing is declaring it as a Class 4 town road. But if you have nothing to back it up in the books that says it was ever a town road or the town ever had a legal right of way, there are a lot of roads out there that farmers put in that went from farmhouse to farmhouse that never were town roads. They crossed private.
Yeah, that's, what you're saying is correct, but now I want to go back to, and God help me if I'm wrong, but my understanding was that all of these roads, every one of them that were in contention, we have to make a declaration on within that window. So we declared, and we discussed this, I believe, in the workshop, we declared that as a Class 4. And the continuing research would back that up if and when it were challenged. That was my understanding from the workshop.
That was our understanding. However, some of them have not been found to be roads that we could declare.
They were undetermined.
They were undetermined.
I think there's a misnomer in the Ancient Roads Committee's discussion of that what the ancient road from the state was to find unidentified corridors. It doesn't look like a road, but it's in the books as a road, and you go out and try to find if there's any semblance of stone walls left, that kind of thing, and resurrect those. A lot of towns have what look to be Class 4 roads on them because anybody who built a road would make it look like a road. I mean, you'd have it for 10 or 15 years, you would put in culverts, you would do some ditching, and it would end up 100 years later looking like a road. Doesn't mean that the town had right of way. But I think that the committee found these undetermined Class 4 looking roads and left it as undetermined with determination to be made. And I thought, my understanding from Hetty was that because they are undetermined, determination needs to be made. And that was the advice, I believe, from the town attorney, that until you determine it as something which had legal right-of-way belonging to the town, you couldn't declare a classification, change a classification, or do anything, or let it go until 2015 and have it disappear. But you needed to determine that it was in the book somewhere. And if it was, then homeowners could come and they could challenge that it might have been discontinued, or they could do research that would prove you wrong or argue against that. But that the town needed something based on the standards of the time, and the standards of the 18th century and 19th century were considerably different than they are now. But something that said, turning left at this house and going so many yards and turning right, and that kind of thing.
I feel as I'm sitting here listening to you now, and I hear what you're saying, is that we're kind of changing rules midstream, or at least my understanding of how this was all supposed to take place. Because understanding what you're saying now, I would have said that we do site visits, but we do not hold any hearings until we've done all of our research. Then, you know, why would we have the hearing and have to determine within
Oh, and
the window?
I agree, and I really thought that a lot of these had been, at least in part, maybe not persuasively to go to court with, but had been at least found, at least resembling a road. I mean, I thought that most of this research had been done. A lot of towns haven't gotten into this because of the expense of doing it.
Oh, I know.
And I know Hetty's worked on it, and I know Carol Mellis, where others have worked on it as well, and I wasn't sure what the status of that was going into all this, but I felt pretty confident, and I know some of them were going to be challenged, but I felt that there was at least some indication that these were indeed part of the town highway system at one point in time. And there was question as to what their current status really was, but that they looked like they'd never been discontinued properly.
Talk about Greenwood Drive, just for example. If I remember right, isn't that partially on the map? The maps that we looked at?
And that's one
And it's
indication.
on, which is an indication that it is a town road. Else it wouldn't have been on the map.
That would be an indication, but I don't know that to be the case. If it's not laid out in the highway books, then I
Well,
think,
that may be, but if it were on the town map, that gives us indication that we can declare it. And then, I mean, that was my understanding, else we never should have had the hearings at all until 2014 and a half.
right, and when I talked to Eddie after the,
Right, am I right?
after this past workshop, it was a little bit of a different story.
Unfortunately, I don't know if you're right or not, because
I don't either,
I've
because
been-
it keeps changing.
Well, and I've been trying to, there's other tasks that we've each been working on,
Yeah.
so I've been trying to
Stay
not,
with Yep.
stay out with the tasks that I've been responsible
Yeah,
for.
and I may have been a little more involved in this, but because my understanding was different. And it seems like when we had that workshop and we sat in there, we all agreed to the understanding, and that's why we said that's what we would present on Monday night.
Correct. And the
And
information that
that's
we
where I felt,
received right prior to the meeting on Monday night was that some of these roads, we weren't sure if they were town roads or not. We weren't sure if they were.
And I called the butters on Sunday, and I indicated that the board had had a workshop and indeed was intending, they hadn't done it yet, but at a meeting, was having a special meeting, they knew about the special meeting. But was intending to make declaration and work things out from that point.
Unfortunately, the information changed right before that meeting on Monday night. So,
And I think some of that is from the town attorney.
All right,
I do
so-
think some of that opinion is from the town, but I think the information that changed was how well prepared the board was to go to this meeting.
Well, I don't,
subsequent
see,
to
I
the
don't think
hearing
the
and make
information
that
changed, that's what bothers me.
Well, I don't mean that, I just mean
Like,
that,
From Sunday to Monday night, that we knew some of these roads, we didn't have, we were a little bit skeptical on some of them, but we all decided that,
that we were going to lay
that we
claim.
thought we had enough on the beers maps and all these that we could prove it, if challenged.
and that's the way I felt coming out of the
But
workshop.
we didn't
That
even,
was my
we
understanding
didn't
coming out of the workshop.
we just skipped right over them.
So what changed? I mean, it was,
Or opinion.
Confidence
Select
in
board.
confidence in
the legality
the
of it.
legality of it. Because if it's not found in the, and unfortunately,
I don't agree with that.
Anyways, I mean, I just wanted to, because I thought we.
Well,
presented
so that, I
very
mean,
well.
but that leaves us again in limbo, because if you have some that you didn't declare as we had agreed to do,
We're-
and now the window is closed,
Right, we're gonna do another hearing.
so can we do another hearing? You wanna scrap it all, start from zero? I mean, you're gonna have to figure what,
No, I think we should might as well
Such
continue
a-
on with one way at least.
Oh, no, continue on.
but I don't know if we lose because we've had a hearing,
I don't see.
and
we don't
that
lose
window
how- can
closes, can we go
We
back
had
to
a-
that next year?
I
Prior
think
to 2015?
we should be able to go back to that next
it.
year.
Actually, there have been, and not to, but there have been a couple of hearings on roads in specific and in general that people expected a declaration to be made at, and that hasn't happened until this past Monday night. So yes, you can revisit all of these, and have hearings on the same road over and over again, but not do something.
But they asked us that, and we said that once we decided, we weren't gonna change. That was one thing, right? We did,
Yeah.
on the ones that we declared.
On the ones that we declared,
We're not gonna change it in 2014.
but there are some of them.
Oh, yeah, no,
But,
one's
but
right.
between now and then, we would,
But because
So
the
we might
decision
drop it down.
wasn't made on Pheasant,
We had to make them all
cemetery road doesn't mean you
possible.
can't
We told them
revisit
that
that.
in the region.
Subsequent to another
Some of them
hearing.
we
But
said
they can't
possibly
revisit
we'll make
that
them a
decision.
trail.
yeah,
You know, so that's it, but, and that was one question they wanted to know if they were gonna put them, we were gonna put them on the map, right, before we determined if it was gonna be a trail or a class 4. We didn't really have much
And
information on that, but.
There's a 45.
We need to make them we need to put them on the map by
2015.
February 10th of 2015. So,
So
We
So
have
that
a
was
full
going to
plan.
give us time enough to have done it all and laid out and redone our map, and at that time decide whether, all right, we determined this is class 4. I think now, given all of the information, we may want to drop this down to a town trail, all right? And then represent that to the abutting property owners. That was my understanding of what we were going to do. Because I understood that we couldn't do anything until we declared them all as class
That-
4.
that is-
Greenwood Drive and
That's what we did,
Carroll Mellis, the whole 9
except
yards.
for the one, how many was it that,
It was 4 or 5 that we didn't do.
There were 4 or 5 of them that we didn't do anything of them.
Yeah, some of the bigger ones, like Eastwoods, we didn't do
yeah,
that.
Stagecoach, or,
Pheasant.
Pheasant, we didn't do. Greenwood Drive.
Well,
Schoolhouse, no, I did schoolhouse.
I
Gale.
guess the board ought to get together and decide what it wants to do about it.
Well, and I think research needs to continue to them, and if we need more people doing research, then.
Well, we may. I mean, I don't think that we can expect Hetty and Carol and everyone to, especially gratis. I mean, it's gonna be an expensive, we knew that. And that was part of our declaration that, you know, I'll just use Greenwood Drive because they're talking about it, but I don't care which one. But Greenwood Drive, if we declare that as class 4 and it becomes challenged, then we can decide whether, okay, are we gonna spend X number of dollars, how much is it gonna cost us to
see, I kept bringing up
defend
that,
this, or shall we just say,
I kept-
okay?
bringing up that exact issue every time we had a question. I go, don't we still
That's
control the exits? I mean, all right, they're bringing this up and we can't, all right,
That's right.
then we throw it out then, but.
And when I left the workshop, I thought that's what we were gonna do. That was-
I was still on to do, which, we did it on the ones that, other than, but then Eddie said that we couldn't on those because of legality. Lawyer came out. So,
I don't agree, but,
Well,
that's just.
I didn't agree at the workshop. I kept bringing that same thing up. I mean, we can lay claim to this, and then we find out later that, all right, it's not. Then we get rid of it. But
Yep.
we kept getting the same argument that if you lay claim to it now, then it's ours now and all this other stuff. So.
Well, and I do think there, and I mean, not to join into this, but I do think there is that. You establish that you have a legal right to lay claim, and then whether you want to lay that claim or not, or whether argument against that is persuasive, is another matter.
Yes.
But if you lay claim to something which isn't yours, and then you are challenged, and you decide whether you want to pay the expense of, you're going to be defending it in court. And
That's
that's a
right.
whole different matter.
That's
And a
right.
greater expense. It's
Exactly.
easier
Yes,
to do a
but-
title search and spend hundreds of dollars on paralegals looking through the books or whatever it costs, than it is to lawyer up and go to court to defend.
Well, yeah, but you still have to choose to lawyer up or not to.
Right, but it's less expensive in the privacy of the vault than it is at the
Well, you would still
at
be
the
doing it in the
courthouse.
privacy of the vault, but you got a date before you got to, I mean, you wouldn't,
I mean, and again, I would disagree, simply that, I think that we've expended monies. For an example, we paid our lawyer to come to that hearing, 400 and some, just under $500, and he didn't speak 5 words hardly, and I don't know that we gained
anything.
any information from this, so we're paying somebody something, and I don't see that we've got anything out of it yet, number one. And number two, I don't agree with everything that he has said. Not according to how I understand
Well, you read the
the
definition.
state's definitions and what it's saying.
And I agree that there's some
And-
confusion out there.
And there is confusion out there, and I think that
The thing is.
We have made a decision as a board
To take
how
a
we were
stance.
going to proceed.
Well, I still feel the same way. I know it's the same argument I had before, and I guess we can go round and round with that
Yeah,
same
we go
argument
round and
all
round and
day,
round.
but
You can't.
you either say that's a road, because you can see it's a road, or we just,
Yeah.
I mean,
Well,
and
I
then,
can tell you that from, this whole ancient road things, it's been going on for years now, and all this ambiguity between how people are reading, the statutes and what the state intended, it's not going to be resolved until somebody takes it to court. So, not necessarily here, but somewhere throughout the state of Vermont, and so, you guys need to probably just do what you feel is
And that's
you
what
need
I
to
thought
do
we
and
had
make
done.
your decisions,
And we
and
had decided that if it comes to the point of going to court, at that time, we would make a decision whether it was going to be worth
fighting
the
for it.
expense or the fight, or
Yeah.
if we had enough,
make a
if we
deal.
had enough data to stand behind it.
Evidence, right.
And I think all of these roads that we looked at were on a map. And that's the data that we based making them determining them as a class 4 before we could move forward. And I asked several times,
way the whole way.
we have to
keep
do it a class 4
beat down.
before we can move on, is that right?
That's
And the answer was yes, that is correct, we had to do that. So
However, some of
this
the-
determination was the first step so we could move on with each of these roads.
And before we could get to this determination, we needed to find a certain modicum of reference to the roads in the town road books.
That is not what it says. Number one, and I don't have it right here in front of me, the modicum of us making a declaration is that it shows on the town map. Number two, the second modicum of us making a declaration is that it is visible. We went
Physical
there and
evidence.
physical evidence of there having been a road there. And that's what the book tells us.
That's,
I mean, there's physical, it's on the map, and there's physical evidence, and then there's one other that
That was my
I agreed to that was
argu-
there.
well,
And that was our argument
the,
before.
the
So we
layout,
had some determination.
the survey or layout of road at an, what's it worded, added at and of the time it was laid out, not today, 100 years ago. And I'm still at that point where if it's a road, we lay claim to it, and then if we get,
We can discuss it.
Yeah, we need to do another
we
workshop.
still
and
control the
decide
exits,
what we
I
wanna
mean,
do. That's all, I
we
think.
still have a way out. I mean,
I'm just sick of wasting my time at workshops, this is the second time it happened, and
But we need to meet, or do, I don't care, do it at a select board meeting instead of a workshop.
That's
I mean,
right.
You can have everybody here determine what you wanna do. I mean, I don't. But I think that Hetty ought to be part of that
I've had that same argument
discussion. I mean,
since
that's only.
day one. If it shows and it looks like a road and
Acts like a road, quacks like a road.
I can drive over, it's a road.
So we can, at our next select board meeting, we'll have a little 3-hour discussion about, or whatever.
Yeah.
Okay, that sounds like we can
So
do
put it
that.
on the,
To be continued.
Anything else under under old business?
ancient business.
New business, about the only thing we've got is
An annual meeting for.
the Brattleboro Community Television having their annual members meeting Wednesday, October 3rd from 6 to 8 at the Brattleboro Museum and Art Center. And
There's a reason for somebody to go.
There is.
Yes.
somebody
Townshend.
from Townshend is requested to be there.
What's that food and drink? It says right there.
So
What's the drink?
Well, we'll go for the drinks if somebody drives.
you can't be on Wednesday. Wednesdays are out.
Absolutely.
Mr. Russ, will you be able to be there on Wednesday?
This what?
This Wednesday, October 3rd, 6 to 8 p.m.
Where is it? Brattleboro?
Brattleboro Museum and Art Center.
Where's Brattleboro?
The town of Townsend apparently is being presented with an on board, a community service.
All right,
As I
I'll-
understand it.
Yeah, I'll
Well, I don't know about
And
Hetty.
the emissary to,
Is Hetty gonna be?
she should be, I don't think knows about it yet. So we can talk to her and see if she
Jeff
can
can
go.
touch base with her.
Jeff can touch base with her, there's an additional flyer.
It should be an official and it should be a select member. And it's not a bad award. I mean, it's not a,
Not a battle.
well, it's not a, yeah, you screwed up award.
Swear in.
Right. It's a good award, apparently. So
Well, we're gonna rate it
but-
as some cussing.
No.
We're gonna rate ours as, well, some cussing. Like the
No,
law.
I would be, I can't, I had previous engagement.
We're one of 9 towns in Wyndham County that are receiving this prestigious award.
This, oh, it's a Monday. We did,
This Wednesday.
Day after tomorrow, Jeff.
Third.
right?
Yeah. Bring pizza.
Time
back.
flies.
Food and drinks,
Yeah, food and drink.
Jeff will be there, food and drink.
Okay. Is there a need for executive, is there any other business to be dealt with by this prestigious board?
Yeah, you might want to talk about, do you want the smart meter or not?
Within 2 weeks? Within 2 days? There was there was something in the mail that said, Green Mountain Power's putting in smart meter.
My opinion is it's not benefiting anybody but Green Mountain Power.
Oh, yeah.
Well,
And they will be putting them in
my
municipal
opinion.
buildings, they're also putting it in
Yeah.
residences, and residents have balked at that, but municipalities have also, I believe, the Dover Elementary
do we,
School and
do we
others.
have the ability to,
People are losing their
opt
jobs
out?
for a business, you know, it's,
Oh, I think there's always an opt-out clause, but I don't
yeah,
know.
you have a choice.
I'm
But
sure
anyway.
if the opt-out is for a certain amount of time or something, then they're gonna get it anyway.
It's all gonna happen,
opt out for a
Well,
while?
I
we're
don't
looking
agree
at-
with it.
since we're paying the electricity on the fire department, on the fire station,
Garage,
the town garage, the town hall,
library.
and the library, and we have 4 of them that we,
The common,
We also have the common.
I'm sure the street lights probably we can't do.
They don't need
They
them.
wouldn't
Those
do
are
it,
on a
yeah.
blanket. yeah.
so do we want to allow them to install them? Do we want to go through the paperwork to opt out?
All we don't, all you have to do is call and tell them you wanna opt out, that's it,
I think we should opt out.
opt out for.
I agree.
Motion's been made and
Yeah,
seconded.
Well,
Any
okay.
other discussion?
If they wanna come talk about the benefits to the town to do that, fine, I'd be happy to
I just
listen.
don't see the
But I don't
benefits,
see
you
any
know.
benefits to the town, I don't know why we would do this, and I don't understand it all, other than
Radio waves, more radio waves.
All those in favor of contacting
Green
I can-
Mountain.
Green Mountain Power to opt out of the municipal services for smart meters, signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Any abstention? Motion carries. Mr. Hunt, can you or
Okay.
I'll do it,
Yeah.
Thank you, ma'am.
Deputy Hills.
Is there any other business? Hearing none, or is there any need for an executive session?
I'll make a motion, we move into executive session just for 2 seconds, or 2
To-
seconds to discuss personnel matters.
Discuss personnel matter.
I need some clarification on a personnel matter.
At, let's say, 8:33, something like that.
Yep.
All those in favor, signify by saying aye.